Hello everyone, I am Tacet and welcome to version 4.6 of Gems of War. As many of you know, version 4.6 of Gems of War just launched last night, and I just wanted to briefly go over all of the new features that ended up coming into the game. This video will be focused more so on just showing those new features and not necessarily going over teams and specifics as far as upgrading, as there is quite a bit of complexity to this. So I basically just want to explain the game mode itself and how these new currencies work. So let's get into that. So first things first, the main thing that ends up happening with this patch, of course, is a complete overhaul to the Explore system. It is much different than it was prior to this update just yesterday. So the first thing you'll notice is a bunch of kingdoms marked with these little orange icon things. These are pretty much the only locations you ever want to do Explore in, unless you're specifically wanting to get a trait stone and just doing it at a very low difficulty just for simply trait stone farming. You're pretty much just going to want to be always going for these orange things, as they are going to be giving you 20% more myth stones. What are myth stones? They're basically a new resource that you end up getting as you progress through the difficulty system within the new Explorer. So every single time you do Explore, you'll start on difficulty 2. Every single time you do the next highest difficulty, you will go on to the next one. So you do 2, then you get 3, 3 into 4, 4 into 5, so on and so forth. And these will apply to any kingdom. So for example, once you unlock difficulty, let's say all the way at the end, where you get to difficulty 12, let's say, for example, we have never explored yet in Wild Plains. I haven't, as you can tell by the fact that it still shows at level 1. However, we can still use all the way to level 12 since we have gone through the whole system to get them all unlocked. So basically, first priority, go and get all the difficulties locked. You can do this in any kingdom you want, or simply just keep targeting down the ones that have the 20% bonus. But as you can see with these, the difficulty ends up determining multiple things. If you're just looking to farm souls and explore like you previously were, the difficulty 1, of course, is very similar to challenges, how they were in the previous system. Difficulty 2 and 3 is very similar to how Explore used to be. So if you're just looking for soul farming, stuff like that, you can still stick with these. But you're generally going to want to go higher than that because there are a lot of other bonuses. Aside from the difficulty getting sets, there are 3 other things that you would end up getting. An additional gold bonus, which can bring this almost up to the rate of PvP at the extremely high difficulties. So pretty good gold rate that you end up getting, and if nothing else, more than you got from Explorer previously, and more that you got from soul farming previously, since you can do soul farming on top of these, whereas before you wouldn't really get much souls from it. Myth stones, which are used to fight the mini bosses, which will end up giving you tokens based on what difficulty you're doing them on. These tokens are used to go and get the new resource of metals. Every 3 of these will end up going and creating yourself a new upgraded metal. So for example, let's go to Token of Guard. This is the most common of the tokens. Once you have 3 of them, it will become a Badge of Guard, which will give you a little bit of armor bonus if you set it as one of your 3 global bonus badges. And then once you have another 3 of those, it'll end up upgrading into a medal. Medals are used for 2 different things, either for their global bonuses or for upgrading troops, as I will get into a little bit later into the video. So essentially, your whole goal is to go into kingdoms, get them upgraded, and doing them basically through their normal format. You just basically choose your difficulty. You do your 4 battles as you normally would in Explore. One thing to really note about these 4 battles is that each of these 4 battles will be weaker than they normally would be. In that every single one of these will be epic rarity and below, and they will always be from the kingdom. So you can use this to really selectively pick what kind of kingdoms you want to explore. And you may notice that a lot of my kingdoms I have set right now are a little bit anti-devour based, like Kazale and Groshnok a little bit. Mainly because I kind of want to avoid these since I am currently using a team that does use Devour, since I'm using Iron Gut for the higher levels. So you can kind of end up choosing based on what options you have. I believe 4 of them are normally highlighted at any given time. And you can basically just keep choosing which ones you actually want to do and just avoid the ones that might not be too favorable to the team that you're currently using. As far as when you go through Explore, once you have a decent understanding of what troops are in the kingdom, you can kind of just know which ones you kind of want to go for and which ones you don't. And Groshnok generally isn't, just because it has the 100% revive troop and quite a few things that can revive that will just slow you down in general. But other than that, your main objective is just to keep going and doing the highest difficulty that you possibly can, ideally 10, 11, or 12, with any kind of instant kill team. So Iron Gut, Mang into Yasmin, Infinite Truffle, any kind of combination that's basically never going to lose at higher difficulties or can actually take out these higher difficulty things. So any of those kind of options are your main go-to sources for farming these new explorers, assuming that you're doing the higher range and not the lower range. And let's just go and get into a few real quick. So let me see. Let's go to, for example, Suncrest, which I believe I already have somewhat started here. So if we go over to the Explore here, you can see that we got through the basics of it. We chose our difficulty, which of course we chose as difficulty 12, so we get the full amount of bonuses. We then did our 4 normal Explore battles. Each of these Explore battles are epic rarity and below. We will then take on our mini-boss. This mini-boss will do 2 things. It'll have a guarantee legend from the kingdom, and it'll also be the battle that rewards us our myth stones. So right here, we are going to be getting our 71 to 75 myth stones. However, if you're doing a kingdom that has 20%, that will be increased by 20%. So we'll just go clear out this battle real quick. One of the themes I am using at the moment is a Iron Gut team. As I mentioned, I will be going over more teams very, very soon. However, I didn't specifically want to mention them too much in this video, as they're a whole thing on their own as far as what teams you would use at which level ranges. But for the most part, instant kill teams like Mang, Yasmin, things like Iron Gut, things like Mang in any capacity with Titan are generally your go-to options for higher difficulties, and the same kind of standard stuff for lower difficulties if you want to do those with things like Sunbird Firebomb and Rowan Leprechaun and the such. But right there, he just ended up moving us some. We're just going to go clear out this battle. Going to go and end up spamming out all we need for Iron Guts. We have Mirage Queen there, so we can get rid of any immunities to Devour, just so we don't have to deal with it, and use it for some skull spam if we really had to. Main thing we just need to do is try getting the Devourer rolling, and just basically one-shot everything from there. So we'll go get ourselves our full mana again, go and get ourselves another Iron Gut proc and poke it again. Take our last little bit of mana, hopefully have alignment for this once more, and then we can just do that for a little bit of red, explode it all, Devour into Devour, and we will be good to go. I don't think we have an instant kill option here, so take a little bit of mana. That should be full, and off 100% Devour, he shall go. And even if they didn't have immune to Devour, or if they did, we could just use Mirage Queen or a similar option in order to go and get rid of their immunity. So right here, you can see that we got a Arcane Trait Stone. This battle does not have a guarantee Arcane Trait Stone. However, the drop rate for Trait Stones are slightly lower on these battles. For the 4 Explore battles, they are slightly lower than they were before. For the Mythic battle, I believe they're about the same as they were before as far as drop rate for Trait Stones. And for the Mythic battle, or sorry, did I just say this one is a Mythic battle? So basically, how the Trait Stones work now is the first 4 Explore battles have a slightly lower rate for the higher rarity Trait Stones than they did before. The Legendary one, which is the one that we just did, the mini-boss one, has what should be about the same drop rates for Trait Stones as before, as you can see by the fact that we just got an Arcane. And the Mythic boss battle will have a 100% chance to always give a Trait Stone from that kingdom, meaning next battle I already know that we're 100% going to be getting an Arcane light Trait Stone from the following battle. And you may notice that we got 88 Myth Stones. Of course, we weren't really supposed to because it says 71 to 75, but of course we are getting a 20% bonus, and you essentially only ever want to do 20% bonus kingdoms unless you're specifically farming a specific Trait Stone on one of the lowest 3 difficulties. If you're doing something like difficulty 10, 11, or 12, 100% of the time you're going to want to use it on a kingdom that currently has an Explore 20% Myth Stone bonus, so that you can do more Mythic boss battles. The Mythic boss battles are really nice. These are the main battles that you're basically trying to get to every single time, and essentially what these are is you use 100 of your Myth Stones that you have, and you then end up going into a Mythic boss battles. Mythic boss battles will have a 100% chance to have a Mythic in them, as well as a lot of other high rarity stuff from the kingdom, such as legends, and it'll end up having the token drop. So whatever it shows for tokens here on your current difficulty is how many tokens it will drop. So right here we are going to be getting 2 to 3 tokens, so guarantee 2 of some kind. As you can see, there is the guarantee mythic, just of a Phoenicia, of course, from the kingdom itself. And we're just going to kill it out as we normally would, either with any of your instant kill options. And we're just going to quickly kill this out. Going to go and get our Mountain Crusher rolling. Take that one down right over there. And then we just go get another mountain there. Be able to get most of our mana. Hopefully he gets all the way up. Of course he's going to be 1 mana short when we desperately need that little bit of mana. Luckily there's this extra turn sitting there. We can then go for our Devour. A little bit annoying not having the Devour. Of course we do have perks now that we'll be able to go and raise those bonuses as far as everything that we have from all of the medals and badges. We will be able to raise all 4 of the stats, as well as have Cleanse and a Mana Start, which we'll be going over in a moment once we get through these few battles. But the main thing to really note is that you will constantly be able to go and get more and more tokens, which will be used for global bonuses, that then will be used for upgrading troops, and you basically just keep repeating that cycle over and over again until you can end up getting all your troops upgraded. So right here, we just need to go and finally get a Devourer. There are things that end up upgrading the attack. Unfortunately, I don't have any of them yet. I believe I have one, but it's only for one attack bonus. And currently, the cleansings are way, way better, as you're about to see. As we go and do an example one of it in a moment. We're going to go and get a really unlucky Iron Gut here. Of course, we could go for slightly more consistent options, but once we have the attack for him, we will be able to base attack him as high as 12 higher than that. Not to mention the upgrades that we'll eventually be able to get on him. So he'll easily be able to have 50% bonus within the very, very near future. But at the moment at 42%, still not the greatest. Obviously, he's more of a delve option, and this is one of the reasons why he's normally more of a delve option. But we'll be able to go and get the last little bit of mana, get his Devour here. And now he can finally go get everything. So luckily stats, of course, are high enough in this game mode that once he gets a single Devourer, we'll be able to go and just keep getting multiple more Devourers on top of that. So let's go get our mountain here. Should be enough due to the 2 that we end up getting for AoE, kill out the Mythic. And do keep in mind, gnomes can appear here. So if it is a gnome event, we will be able to find gnomes in these battles just like we would any of the other battles normally. So just like as Explorer was previously, this does still give 1 class XP per battle and still has gnomes as it normally did prior. So unfortunately, some of these longer battles do still have the 1 XP gain, as you can see. But as you can also see, we got our guarantee 1 Arcane Light, as I ended up mentioning, 1 Arcane Stone from the Kingdom itself. And now we get the boss chest, which will have our 2 to 3 tokens in it. Grab by clicking this over here. And now we will get a bunch of tokens. Apparently 2 right here. We ended up getting the rare one and the 2 of the ultra rare one. So basically, if we have enough of these, as you can see right here, they will combine into each other. Right here, we end up having 3 of the Cedric ones. So now that we have 3 Cedric tokens, those 3 Cedric tokens will now go and transform themselves into a badge of Cedric. And now if we get 3 badges of Cedrics, those 3 badges of Cedrics will then combine into a medal of Cedric. And then at that point, they are completely maxed out. And then you could go and use those medals of Cedrics to go and upgrade troops. So right here, let's go and actually go and show that real quick. So if we go now over to our troop menu, we will now be able to upgrade any troop we want with our medals. I'm going to go to base rarity right here because I actually want to go a little bit lower. Initially, you are going to be wanting to go and upgrade lower rarity stuff. As far as legends and mythics are concerned, probably even epics, you're probably not going to be upgrading many of them too soon because they're going to be rather expensive to do and pretty time consuming. So you're likely going to want to focus on some of your better rares, some of your better ultra rares, maybe even some of your better commons like humility, justice, stuff like that, because higher rarity troops are going to be relatively expensive to start getting some in. And one pretty good thing to consider with that, other than the guardian troops, is to consider doing bounty hunter related troops. If I could just find the one I'm looking for, where did Tagraki go? Tagraki! So as you can see here, Tagraki. We now have a little extra thing over here that you can already see. We now will have a little bit of indication onto the card as far as how far they have been upgraded with medals. All troops can now be upgraded 3 additional times. This can only be done if they are completely maxed out. So if they're level 20, fully ascended with all traits, you can start using medals onto the troop. So these troops will be able to be increased with these medals in order to gain extra stats. These stats are based on whatever kind of typing they currently have. As you can see, this is a striker, so it ends up gaining 1 magic on its first level up, then 1 attack, 1 armor, 1 magic, and 1 life on its next, and then 1 attack, 1 armor, 1 life, and 2 magic on its next. And keep in mind that this ends up going and being a bonus every single time. This is additive, so this is not the total amount that you're getting. Every single level you're getting whatever that is. So when we hit bronze, we're getting that 1 magic, and when we hit silver, we're getting that 1 attack, 1 armor, 1 HP, and 1 magic, and so on and so forth as we go down the list here. So you're going to be getting a total from upgrading this thing: 2 attack, 2 armor, 2 HP, and 4 magic. That's not the total. It's just going to be what you get per each of the levels, and ends up doing a little indication there. So basically how you end up doing these levels, if I go and show a different troop right here, is initially they are going to need 1 of the same rarity. So if we go over here to medals, you can see that 1 rare medal would end up getting it maxed. 3 of a lower rarity would end up getting it maxed at 100%. And of course, 1 of a higher rarity would count it as a max. Keep in mind that 1 of these basically counts as 3. 1 of a higher rarity counts as 3 of a lower rarity. So, for example, over here, we need to go and upgrade Tagraki. As we upgrade it, the first one needs 1 of the rarity, the second one needs 2 of the rarity, and the third one needs 3 of the rarity. However, this counts as 3 of the rarity. So we could just go, if we wanted to go and upgrade this thing right now, is use a Medal of Cedric and then throw another Medal of Cedric at it after we get its level, and we'd be able to get it all the way to gold, as this basically counts as 3 rares, and then it would count as another 3 rares. Alternatively, we could use 2 Yasmins, and that would count for 2 of the rarity for this, and then 3 of it, and then that would count for 3 of the rarity. Or you can simply use the rarity above in order to power level it. You're generally never going to want to use any medal that is 2 rarities above the rarity of the troop, as it will just be a complete waste to do so. You're essentially only ever going to want to use the rarity below on the very first level up, in which you could use 3 of the prior, which isn't really advised, but you can do it that way. The easiest way of doing it is, of course, to use the rarity of the troop itself. So in this case, rare medals to upgrade a rare troop. And then alternatively, if you're doing the 2nd or 3rd level, you can do 1 rarity above the rarity of the troop. If you do it on their 2nd level and do 1 rarity above, you are wasting some of its effectiveness. However, if you use 1 rarity above the medal or the rarity of the troop for the medal, it will end up getting the full amount of effectiveness if you do it for its final level, as this basically counts as 3 rares. And you do not get that 1 rare back if you end up using it for its 2nd level here. So for example, if I put this in right here and go use our 20,000 souls, it will end up just completely consuming this. It will not give us 1 rare medal, unfortunately, even though this is technically worth 3 rare medals, and it's only costing us 2 rare medals in order to put it in. But the first level will only cost you 10,000 souls, the next one 20,000, and then the other one 30,000 souls, meaning that every single troop now will require an additional 60,000 souls in order to get them 100% max if you want to get all these stats. These stats, for the most part, aren't really going to make too big of deals in many battles. However, for end game play, particularly for stuff like Guild Wars and just for being able to do game modes a little bit easier like Delves and such, it will be a pretty good asset in order to assist you in these game modes. So it's something to consider to work towards and getting your core troops upgraded. And for now, basically just focus on some of the more useful lower rarities and worry about the higher rarities probably into the future, as it's going to take quite some time to be able to go and farm those resources up. But anyways, guys, other than that, there are still several other things unrelated to these medals that did end up happening in this most recent patch. 4 of them specifically that I do want to end up covering real quick in this specific video. The first one I want to mention is Orbweaver class. So if I go over to troops real quick and go over to classes, Orbweaver ended up getting quite a nerf here. In that it now has a 35% chance to now summon its giant spider instead of a 50%. It's still going to be the same theme as it's always been. It basically just dropped it down from a half chance to a third chance, essentially. So this is mainly to be a bit of a counter to Life and Death, as it has been used in quite a few annoying Life and Death teams. So it's just something to consider if you're going to be still using Orbweaver or not. I still say most of the teams that it's used for, it's still pretty useful. It's just a little bit more less consistent, kind of like how the bandits were reduced slightly in their percent chances because they were a little bit too annoying. However, they are still very annoying, and that's going to be pretty much the same case with Orbweaver. It's a bit of a nerf, but it's still going to be pretty much as annoying as it's been. Next thing to really mention is Instant Kill Dispel. Now all instant kills have Dispel, so Zugoff, for example, has had the ability to be able to hit through stuff like Barrier and as such, and hasn't really needed to worry about any kind of thing that would stop him from instant killing. Basically, every single instant kill in the entire game works like that. Keep in mind, Devour is not an instant kill. This is basically referring to simply things that simply kill out an enemy. So things like Dracos 1337, things like Zugoff, things like Skyla, things like that. Things that had like really weird interactions where sometimes they wouldn't because their damage would go first or later. And now they basically just made it so every single instant kill is uniform and all of them will always dispel first in order to get past Barrier. So all instant kills are basically better now, except for Zugoff, which is exactly the same as it already was, as well as a few other ones. It's basically just made it so all instant kills function similarly now, rather than some functioning one way and some functioning another way. So that's quite a bit of a buff to some specific instant kill troops out there. Other than that, negative effect nerf. This ended up happening quite a bit. You may have noticed I have 3 Cedrics currently equipped. These medals are insanely good. They are going to be adding more medal bonuses into the future. The current bonuses that we have is 8 armor off of common, life off of rare, cleanse off of ultra rare, attack off of epic, starting mana off of legendary, and magic off of mythic. There's 2 things to note about these. All of the stats stack, and we are going to be getting more of these into the future, but you have to keep in mind that these essentially work like traits, all of these medals and the future medals that we're going to be getting. So what I mean by that is there's two interactions, particularly with these 2%, the Badge of Anus and Medals of Anus, as well as the Cedric related ones, that they have a little bit of slightly different interaction. So these Anu ones, which will end up giving you mana, the badges have 5% and the medal has 20%. These do not stack with any kind of other mana start. So if you have a 50% mana start and you want to go use a 5% mana start, that will not be a 55% mana start. It will simply be a 50% mana start. It'll just take the highest mana start that you have and it will just use that. So these are relatively bad, so you would never need to actually use multiple badges of Anus. Really, you wouldn't ever really need to use a badge of Anu ever. The only time you would ever really maybe use it is one single medal of Anu for a 20% bonus. But this bonus would not stack with other things, so if you had a 75% bonus, that would not be a 95%. It would just simply be 75%. But it's really good for troops that have a 0% bonus, since you could raise them up to 20%. But for the most part, you're not really going to be using this medal too much, even though it's legendary, simply because it just does not stack with other mana starts. That's a pretty big hit on that. However, one interesting thing that Medal of Cedric does is it does stack. It does independent rolls. So basically what the Medal of Cedric does is right here we have a 40% chance that per turn we'll end up getting a cleanse per troop. It is insanely, ridiculously powerful, meaning that if you have 3 of them, you have 3 40% chances per turn that you will cleanse. It checks every single troop independently, and every single 40% checks independently. So all 4 of your troops will each get 3 40% cleanse chances, and at minimum a 10% cleanse chance, because don't forget, naturally you have a cumulative 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, of course, so forth, as turns go by, chance to cleanse. And that will stack with these 3 40%, giving you a pretty high percent chance. I forget what the exact math is on it, but I believe it's a bit over 80% chance per turn per troop that it will end up going and cleansing. Basically meaning in about 2 turns or so, you have almost guaranteed chance that your troop will be cleansing with 3 of these things on. And even just with 2, it's a pretty substantially high chance that you are going to be getting cleanses. So if you're up against really high stats effects teams, they're basically not a threat anymore, because stats effects are near useless. One thing to keep in mind though is, since, as I mentioned, these do work as traits, things like armor bonuses and attack bonuses and all of these kind of stuff and mana starts, these all trigger at the start of battle, so stunning them doesn't really matter. However, since these basically kind of indirectly act as traits, stunning them will disable them if they are something that is reoccurring. And currently the only reoccurring medal that exists is the medals and badges of Cedric. So do keep in mind that if you do get stunned on a specific troop, that troop will not be able to trigger the medal or badge of Cedric effect. So it'll still have its normal natural 10% cleanse chance that it has, cumulative, 10%, 20%, 30%, so forth, assuming it's not cursed, which it's halved. But the badge itself will be disabled if it is stunned. And these will be applicable to any future badges that they also have. Let's say we end up getting some kind of badge into the future that increases our attack by 1 per turn, let's just say. If that was to be stunned, it would be disabled. If that troop was specifically stunned. So do be mindful of that. Currently, the only medal or badge that is applicable to is Cedric, but into the future, more of them will have that kind of effect. And other than that, one other small thing that ended up coming in this patch is the mana show within battles. Here's a good place to show this. Let's do a random challenge. So, for example, if we just go to challenges right over here, we will now be able to go and see our mana bonuses that we currently have. So let's say I completely forgot what I just set as my banner, because I honestly completely forgot what I said as my banner. So we can now go over to the menu here, and finally it ends up showing what we have for all of our mana bonuses. So we can see, obviously, it's Hand's Veil, so we get +1 green, +1 yellow. Well, we can also see that we currently have a Kraken banner set with a +2 brown, +1 blue, and -1 yellow. Doesn't actually show the banner, but it does show all of our pluses and minuses that we have. So, for example, if we were to go to take a brown right now, we can see that we're going to be getting +2 brown onto our brown take. And it's going to be pretty easy now to be able to determine what on earth the bonuses are for the enemy. As previously, unless you just checked at the beginning of the battle, this was not visible in any way, shape, or form. And now within the battle itself. But now you'll be able to, and yeah, it's now easily accessible. A pretty nice feature that I wish they would have added initially, but better late than never. But anyways, guys, that is pretty much everything with this new format. Go and grind out all of these explorers. Hopefully be able to get a lot of good tokens off your mythic bosses. Of course, the amount of tokens that you end up getting do end up increasing with higher difficulty, though to our current understanding, the higher difficulty doesn't actually increase the rarity of the tokens that you end up getting. So, for example, even though we're doing on difficulty 12 and we're getting, max amount of 2 to 3, we're not actually getting higher rarity of them. So it doesn't, like, increase the chance that we're getting, like, mythic ones or so. At least based on our current understanding, that is how it is. But we'll be covering more videos soon, going over teams, going over what you should be mostly prioritizing past the really low rarity stuff, and stuff like that very, very soon, as this brings a lot of complexity to the game and a lot of grind. Easily thousands upon thousands of hours of grind, but most of it isn't really too mandatory as the bonuses are relatively small and they're mostly just for full-blown completionist sake, just to get a little bit of extra bonus out of your extra time that you're putting into the game. Anyways, guys, if you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it on the comment section below. I mean, I'm currently, unfortunately, still on vacation at a really important update time, so I won't be able to get to too many, but do feel free to leave stuff in the comments, and I will try to get to as many as I possibly can in my free time. But anyways, guys, I'll catch all of you later. Hope you all have a wonderful time with the next patch, and make sure to grind that vault event hard, because you'll be able to get a lot of tokens while doing so, while simultaneously farming gnomes. I'll catch all of you later, and have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.